Alright, so now we have some pretty even coverage on the face. A couple problem areas up here that we can address later, but I've showed you the techniques on how to start balancing things out. So, essentially that's what I end up doing. I just keep using layer masks and adjustment stacks to start evening everything out. So I hope you guys kind of understand the process. But moving forward, let's try to do some textures for the ears, the neck, and then the rest of the head. So for the ears, as you can see, they're pretty problem areas. Very organic shapes, a lot of rounded edges, so it's very difficult to get even coverage. So what I like to do first is I'm going to create a layer here called ears, and I like to lay down a clean coverage of skin on the ear itself, full coverage. So I'm going to go and explore the UV tab in OrthoView. I really like this feature in Mari, being able to see both at the same time. You might notice that the UVs are slightly different than the original ones that I demoed, but that's only because I did this model a bit earlier and I painted this a bit earlier, so I UV'd it slightly different, but the same concepts are the same. Have even distributed UVs, all uniform 1-to-1. So here's the ear that we're going to start with, and I want to just start with some even coverage. And I talked a bit earlier about this image here that I really liked. That was very even. And we're going to test it out and see. Like so. And this is what I was talking about earlier in terms of getting nice clean UVs that are uniform, because then you get really nice clean textures that you can use. You don't have to worry about stretching when you're painting in the UV tab. And this is really good detail that I'm going to use later to my advantage, because very often people neglect the ears. They either make them too smooth or too rough, and you got to find that balance where you get some really nice kind of displacement breakup on the ridge of the ear, not too much where it gets crunchy, but then you get a much smoother surface in the inner ear because it does get a little bit more oily and shiny. So this map will ensure that I have nice clean coverage on the top, sides, and back, and all the way around because of the UVs that I did. So, however, if you look here, it's a bit bright, and we're going to quickly paint this ear as well. Just get some coverage in there. Before we adjust the brightness. And you may notice that I'm not utilizing this filters tab anymore. And I've noticed that when I've been working in 2.0, I very rarely use this tab anymore because it's destructive. I like to keep it non-destructive until I know that's what I want, and then I'll merge things down accordingly. So I'm happy with this coverage of the ears. I'm going to go in and get some more blending before I start rebalancing. So make sure that blend is even, like so. Do the same thing to this side. Although I've realized that this image on that side is graded differently, so I want to stick with this image because I'm going to be grading this uniformly. However, I want to flip this image, so the best way to do that is I have this Tools Property Texture tab here, and the scale, I'm just going to scale it in negative, so it'll actually flip my image perfectly over. And then I can continue like so. It's kind of a handy feature. Just trying to block it in here. Really noticing a huge discrepancy on this side here that I'm not really happy with. So I'm going to try to address that before we move on. For some reason that side of the grade on that image didn't go so well. So I'm going to go back into my adjustment stack, see what we can do. That feels definitely a bit better. Maybe slightly too saturated. But I'm going to apply a layer mask. I'm going to reveal it. And then I'm going to paint back some of that saturated areas. Make sure I have black selected. Tone some of that back. Much happier with this value here. It's much more even. So now I want to address the ears. So I'm going to select the ears, go to my adjustment stack, create another hue saturation lightness, and I'm just going to take them down slightly, just ever so slightly, so it matches a bit better. There, done. So that's how I get my initial base coverage for the ears. Get some nice details in there. From there, I want to go even further. I want to add some of the really, the ears are some of the most complex in terms of color variation and tone. And I want to capture that because right now these ears are just going to read very CG and very kind of tileable texture E. So I brought in some images here from a different human, and I've painted out the shadows and the highlights to get a pretty even toned ear, but you can see how much variation there is in here. So I'm going to use that to my advantage. So I'm going to create a new layer, call this ears details. And in the Ortho UV tab again, I'm going to paint some of that in. I'm going to go back to my tool properties and reset the image so it's not inverted. And this time I'm actually going to use a soft brush. Oops, wrong here. Just lay this in very slowly and subtly. Like so. You get a lot of stuff for free here, which is really nice. and bake that. And actually I'm gonna do a layer mask. And fade some of this back that I painted. Actually, you don't want to take the back. I'm actually going to go in and extend it some more, because right now it doesn't go all the way around the ear. So I'm going to grab some of that color, extend it towards the back of the ear. Again, this is not a real area that we need to focus on because it's the back of the ear, but we just want to make sure that we get a nice blend. And now I'm going to go in and fade some of this back. So it's not so stark. Oh, I want to make sure that actually using black and white wasn't there for a sec. There we go. Pretty happy with that. So now let's color correct this so it fits into the ear a bit better. Actually, before I do that, I want to tone back some of this earlobe texture to blend better. Good, happy with that. So let's go into the ear details, adjustment stack, and let's do a hue saturation value. So at this point, we're not looking to get too much redness in there. We can do that later. We're just trying to get it in the right ballpark. Yeah, I'm happy with that. So that's how we get the details for the ears. So I'm seeing a discrepancy in the nose. Let's see if we can fix that. Let's go to the front projection, which is that one there. And let's see if we can fix that up a bit. I'm gonna hide it. Just with a soft paintbrush. Bring some of this back up. So you can see the advantage I get with keeping this as separate layers is that it makes the blending very easy. and on the fly, which is really nice. I want to try to get some of that out of the upper lip. And saturation down a bit. Like so. Cool. I'm happy with that. So let's move on to the neck. Now it really depends on the subject that you're looking at. Some women actually have pretty rough necks in terms of displacement detail. So again, this is very young, clean skin. So in the color maps, we just want to be pretty conservative with it. We don't want to go too crazy with the detail. We just want to block stuff in, but just making sure it's even coverage, like I've been saying. So let's go add another layer, do neck, and let's just start blocking some colors in. Like so. We'll worry about the redness down here later. Like so. And it's the exact same process. We're just going to do front, side, left, and go all the way around. Again, it's the same exact thing for the head. So for the head here, I'm going to do a new layer. Like so. And then with that one cheek that I really liked, lay down some scalp texture. It can be very gestural because eventually we're going to put hair on her. So you don't have to really worry about the detail. Try to clean up that forehead. Some better texture. Yeah, that's a bit better. So there you go. And I'm just going to continue going all the way around the head and the neck. And get full coverage. So before I go and end this clip, I also will end up cleaning up the nose. I did some quick rough textures in there, but I'll further refine it and then end up cleaning up the lips. which I typically go, when I'm done this first projection here, I will go into my UV tab and then finish off the rest of the paint down here, because this is stuff that you won't see, so I just clean it up at the end, and then that'll be the rest of the lips. So in the next section, I will go through the final maps for the epidermal color, and then we'll talk about adding some variation to them, color correcting them a bit so they're a bit more appropriate, and then moving on.